This is the Georgia Farm Monitor. Since 1966, your source for state and national agribusiness news and features for farmers and consumers about Georgia's #1 industry, agriculture. The Farm Monitor is produced by the state's largest general farm organization, the Georgia Farm Bureau. Now, here are your hosts, Ray DeLessio and Kenny Burgamy.
Well, the holidays are over, and so is all the overindulgence, hopefully. But one thing never changes, and that's the Georgia Farm Monitor. Hi again to you. So glad you tuned in for another edition of the show. I'm Ray DeLessio.
And I'm Kenny Burgamy. As always, we've got a great show for you. Coming up, we were there as Georgia's outgoing Senator Saxby Chambliss said his final goodbyes to Washington. Hear what Chambliss says are some of the greatest accomplishments he made while in office. Also on the show, after years of planning and some delays, the Georgia Poultry Lab finally has a new place to call home. See how this state-of-the-art facility is now even more equipped to benefit Georgia's poultry industry.
Yeah, and speaking of the poultry industry, is a new California state law responsible for the rising cost of eggs? And could it eventually affect producers right here in the South? All this and more starting right now on the Georgia Farm Monitor.
And we begin in Washington, D.C., where recently the end of a long and productive political career came to a conclusion as Saxby Chambliss officially closed the books on his storied career as a Georgia senator. Before packing up his belongings, though, the outgoing senator sat down with the Monitor in his Washington, D.C. office to talk about everything from ag to national security. After serving 4 terms in the U.S. Congress and ending his second term in the Senate, in mid-December, Chambliss gave his official farewell to Washington.
I've often said that my greatest satisfaction from this job comes not from negotiating major pieces of legislation, but from being able to help Georgians with difficulties they're experiencing and having a positive impact on their lives.
Saxby Chambliss, first elected to the House of Representatives in Georgia in 1994. He defeated Max Cleland for the U.S. Senate bid in 2002. Just before Chambliss left his D.C. office last month, he told me it was the right time to step away.
Well, it's been 20 years, obviously, and 20 great years. I've had 8 great years in the House, 12 great years in the Senate. I've loved every minute of it. But there comes a time in any profession when you need to examine where you are in your career and whether it's time for you to move on. In politics especially, you don't always get to leave at the top of your game. I'm fortunate to be leaving while I'm on top.
Having served on the Ag Committee, Senator Chambliss has been a longtime advocate for farmers and producers and speaks highly of the Georgia Farm Bureau organization.
I can't help but get a smile on my face when I talk about Georgia Farm Bureau. It's just the greatest people in the world. Zippy Duval has provided just great leadership for Farm Bureau. He's a dear, dear friend. I know his family well. His son was a helicopter pilot, and I got to see him in theater where he had his life in harm's way. And here's this young man from Georgia who is affiliated with Farm Bureau directly, and he's doing his service for the country. And his dad is doing his service for the country by serving as president of a great organization.
And according to Farm Bureau President Zippy Duval, the feeling is mutual.
Senator Chambliss has always been there for the military families. He's always been there for the communities around our military bases. He's always been there for agriculture. And for that, we'll always love our senator.
Coming up next week in part 2 of our conversation with Saxby Chambliss, the former Georgia senator tells us what the future holds for him now that he's no longer a member of the U.S. Senate.
In other news now from the files of Seriously comes the top 14 most glorious posts on Craigslist in 2014. Checking in at number 14, homemade chicken diapers. Yes, seriously. Back in August, the ad read as follows. Need chicken diapers? Do you have indoor chickens or ducks? Do you need diapers for your fowl to keep your house clean? We can help. We make custom chicken duck diapers in a variety of fabric colors and patterns. Prices range from $9 to $12 each. Another ag-related post checked in at number 3, 2010 avocado for sale. Actually, it was a car shaped as an avocado on wheels. According to the ad, it was once used for making deliveries. Want to sell ASAP? Need money for a 2014 Kiwi. All right, chicken diapers and avocados. Must have been a slow news day, huh?
I guess so.
Can you tell? Wow. Well, meantime, the Georgia Cattlemen's Association has a new executive vice president. Will Bentley of Thomaston recently took over the position.
Yeah, shortly after he started, our Mark Wildman got a chance to visit with Bentley on his family farm to discuss the major issues facing today's Georgia cattle producers.
Will Bentley grew up on this farm in Thomaston, Georgia, and even though he does not live on the farm full-time anymore, he still spends many hours a week working the 85-head herd. Ever since the day he was old enough to help, he has been busy raising cattle and learning all the life lessons the industry has to offer.
It was great growing up around cattle. It taught me a lot about responsibility, about hard work, and what it means to be a part of a family and be a part of a business. So learned a lot of responsibility that way.
Now, along with being a cattleman himself, he has the opportunity to work a job he has wanted for a very long time.
I actually was working out in Colorado in a different capacity in a sales role, and I actually applied for every job that Georgia Cattleman ever put up and posted, but a lot of them didn't work out because I didn't have the skills to be in the magazine or other things. But I came on with the association services position, which is a membership and that capacity, and had the opportunity to step in after Josh left, and it really is a dream job. And somebody told me the other day that they talked to my dad, and he wouldn't have been any more proud if I'd have been a pitcher on a Major League Baseball team. So it really is a dream job that I've wanted since I was a little kid and first started going to cattlemen's meetings.
His new position as Executive Vice President of the Georgia Cattlemen's Association will keep him very busy, not only working on industry issues, but also growing the association's membership, because Will believes their strength is in their numbers.
We currently have about 5,344 members, so I think getting everyone involved. We have about 15,000 producers in the state of Georgia, so the more of those we can get involved, the better it'll be, because it is important to have those grassroots numbers when you try to get things done in Atlanta or D.C. or whatever the case may be.
Beef is promoted nationally with a $1 per head checkoff, but now Georgia has its own additional $1 per head checkoff, and the money will be put to work around the state.
None of that money's been spent yet, but I think they've gathered somewhere around $100,000 at this point, basically through the second half of 2014. So that'll be some really good money that can be done pre-slaughter on beef cattle in the state of Georgia, and some of the needs that we have, whether it be fly control or any types of fescue grass research. It's going to be a great opportunity for cattlemen in the state of Georgia.
It is going to be a busy time for Will over the coming months and years, but it is a task he is looking forward to tackling, and he feels every cattleman, whether they run a large operation or not, should be involved in their industry.
If you're not willing to get out there and promote your product, which is beef, if you're not out there fighting for your industry, a group like the Humane Society or PETA, they certainly will. And we hope that's not the case, and we hope that everyone sees a value in having somebody that represents you around the state.
Reporting from Upson County, I'm Mark Wildman for the Georgia Farm Monitor.
Okay, still to come on the program, the Georgia Poultry Lab officially opens its new building, and the Georgia Farm Monitor was given a personal tour of that facility.
And then later, hear how a new California state law could affect the decisions of some on what to serve at the breakfast table. Stay tuned, you're watching the Georgia Farm Monitor.
John Harrison's 900-acre Wildwood Farm in south central Virginia has been in his family for more than a century. With an eye to the future, John has cut back on his beef cattle herd and now has trees on former pasture land. The trees help control erosion and nutrient runoff, which means cleaner water flowing from the farm to the Chesapeake Bay.
When we get a 1-inch rain, the stream that our streams run into would be muddy. Ours is always clear. It never gets muddy.
Thousands of trees have been planted, with the costs covered by a local company that is using this positive practice for the environment to offset negative water quality effects within the same river basin.
It is a land conversion project where we took active subprime farmland and placed a timber product on it.
The timber product, riparian buffers and forested areas, qualifies under state law as a bank of tradable nutrient credits. Over time, the credits are traded for cash from developers, who are required to address water quality when they build roads, parking lots, and such in Virginia. The cash covers the cost of the tree planting project and payments to the farmer.
What you've seen today on this farm with this nutrient bank, I think, is probably the most innovative new cash revenue stream that we have for paying for bay cleanup. And it was done with private money.
The USDA's Natural Resources Conservation Service works with farmers and ranchers to help them protect the environment and keep their operations sustainable, both of which are happening here.
This farm is really a watershed success story and a great example of how a nutrient bank can work.
It's a first step in cleaning up the rivers in the Chesapeake Bay, and it creates another revenue stream for us as well.
In Appomattox County, Virginia, for the U.S. Department of Agriculture, I'm Pat O'Leary.
Founded in 1979, the Atlanta Community Food Bank distributes more than 50 million pounds of food each year to pantries, kitchens, and shelters around 29 different counties.
Damon Jones recently spoke with founder Bill Bowling, who tells you why the organization is so important and how the idea of food banking all started.
What started off in the basement of a local church back in 1979, the Atlanta Community Food Bank has now turned into this more than 200,000 square foot warehouse that distributes food to more than 600 nonprofit agencies around the metro area. It's a big organization that started with a small idea.
I really thought there was a lot of food out there, and that proved to be true, but it was a new idea. So the idea was to centralize the acquisition of food, whether we're working with a farmer or packer or wholesaler, retailer. We could really sit down with them and say, how can we make this a good business proposition for you to donate? And then in turn, we can guarantee that it would get to the needy.
That giving spirit was instilled early on in Bolin, who credits much of the food banking idea to his family values.
My family grew all its own food and had farm animals, but it was part of our tradition to help everybody in the little community. I grew up in a little town of 800 people, like a lot of small towns in Georgia. But I remember my grandfather leased more land in addition to ours just to grow food to give away. So he was the first food banker I ever met.
After serving in the Air Force for 4 years and attending West Georgia College, Bowling started to look for ways to serve his fellow Vietnam veterans, many of whom were unemployed and homeless. After much prayer and soul searching, he asked himself one simple question.
I really did think, what is God's purpose in my life? What is the best way for me to serve? And there's no right answer. We all have to answer it for ourselves. But food seemed to be a natural way, a natural tool for building community and transforming lives. And I think in turn it's transformed my life.
And the community is really the lifeblood for this organization as they provide countless man hours throughout the year.
Use over 20,000 volunteers as young as 8 years old, because we want young people to feel a sense of empowerment. We want parents to bring their families over together. We work with schools and scout troops and boys and girls clubs, and it's very gratifying. And it really is I guess the secret to the success of the food bank.
Coming off one of the worst recessions in recent memory, the food bank has become more important than ever, as hundreds of thousands of hardworking people have been in need of a little bit of help.
In the political framework, there's often an argument about who deserves to eat. And we often hear that the poor, people down on their luck, or have bad values, or they're lazy or don't want to work. Not our experience. And I think a lot of people that make that observation really don't personally know any of these folks.
So whether it's food, money, or just a little bit of your time, Bolin believes every single person has something they can donate to a good cause.
I would say that we all have a gift, that we all have something that we can give. If it's just helping our neighbor, or smiling at folks and giving a good word, learning to be a great storyteller changes hearts, that all of us have something to give, and we can give it.
Reporting from Atlanta, I'm Damon Jones for the Georgia Farm Monitor.
Just a reminder, if you missed any part of the story or others on today's show, you can still see them in their entirety at our YouTube channel. That's the Georgia Farm Monitor. Once there, you can browse the archive of stories that date back as far as 2009.
And don't forget, once you're done watching all those great stories, just keep on clicking And like the Georgia Farm Monitor Facebook page, we have set up for you if you have a story idea or if you just want to leave us a comment or a suggestion, feel free to send us either a message on Facebook or at the address listed below. That is news@farm-monitor.com. Up next, a look inside the brand new Georgia Poultry Lab. What makes it so much better than the old lab? The answer when the Georgia Farm Monitor continues. Stay with us.
With help from her mother Ashley and a family friend, Adeline Smith is making lunch. Today it's apples, other fruit, and spinach salad. Tasty and good for you. Adeline is taking a cooking class with other kids her age and their moms.
My favorite that we did was these like quesadilla things that like had cinnamon and sugar on them and fruit, and then we cut up vegetables.
It's part of a program called iCook, where children and their parents do a little cooking and a lot of bonding in the kitchen.
And I think probably one of the best things has been the kids have made all sorts of vegetables and fruits, and once they make it, they're a lot more likely to eat it.
iCook is a program that encourages parents and children to work together to learn about healthier lifestyles. It's a combined effort by UT Extension, Tennessee 4-H, and UT's Nutrition Department. UT Extension Family and Consumer Sciences agent Theresa Allen teaches this program in Sumner County, the first county outside of Knoxville to implement iCook. Today's session is titled Supermarket Smarts, with info on what to look for at the grocery store when it comes to feeding your family healthy, affordable foods. Allen says one of her favorite things here is getting to teach all ages.
I've done cooking clubs for kids and I've done cooking classes for adults, but getting them together really gets the message across. So they learn the recipe together, they learn about shopping and food safety, and then they talk about exercise, and then we also talk about the importance of having family mealtime together.
We've learned how to set the table properly, and we've learned how to exercise.
11-year-old Brooke Weiner is now doing quite a bit of cooking at home, and her mother appreciates the extra hands in the kitchen.
Things that she has learned to do with the iCook program, I would have never thought that she was capable of doing at home with her knife skills and food prep, and she's able to finish a meal from beginning to end.
That's key as well, giving the kids a sense of independence. With class coming to an end, it's time to finish off what was prepared. And the food just might taste a bit better knowing this was a team effort that started in the kitchen and ended around the table. This is Chuck Denny reporting.
Well, Chuck, thank you so much. For the folks at the Georgia Poultry Lab in Gainesville, one could say Christmas came early for them in the last year.
Yeah, exactly, Kenny. After 52 years in their old building, the group recently moved into a brand new state-of-the-art facility located just off Georgia 365 in North Hall County. The move long overdue, according to GPL Executive Director Dr. Luis Devor Zavala.
It's very highly needed. Literally, the old lab is falling apart and it no longer fits the needs of the poultry industry. It was not without its difficulties. It's a very complicated and complex building because of the air handling system, but it was just fascinating to go through the process. It took a while, we had some delays, but now we're very happy with the result. There's something that I was not anticipating, and some of my older employees definitely had that sentimental feeling. Both ways, by leaving the old one and then by seeing the awesomeness of the new one. It was very emotional for some of them.
It is absolutely amazing. The technology is so much better. The room, more than anything, it's just, we're not bumping into each other. We have all the space that we need to store everything. We're not using the same counter space for multiple things and having to move it when we're done with it and put something else there in order to be able to do our tasks. So we can have everything set up in one place and working, and then leave it that way where it is ready to go for the next time that we need to use the space again, instead of starting all over from fresh and putting everything away.
The work that we do involves a lot of really unpleasant odors because we're working with salmonella and samples from poultry environments. And odor was a tremendous problem at the old facility. And so as we designed we planned to mitigate those odors. We've done a really good job, and you probably haven't noticed a lot of unpleasant smells. That's huge. The staff seem to really enjoy it.
So we support the poultry industry. Mostly about 95–96% of what we do is the commercial poultry industry, and the rest is non-commercial. And we make sure that we support their food safety programs and their poultry health programs by testing in the laboratory for things like influenza, salmonella, mycoplasma, etc. The receiving department is where we receive all samples in the lab from the poultry industry. Probably around 20% of them come in by mail, but the rest are actually driven in here. And it's probably one of the departments where the improvement is the most noticeable. It's a much larger space. There's room for all the employees where there wasn't really at Oakwood, and a much better flow of samples, separation of contaminated samples versus clean samples. So it's much better designed. And we have much better air handling. Air handling is probably the biggest change. But as far as departments, receiving is probably the biggest improvement. The airflow is very important to avoid contamination between samples for highly technical techniques such as PCR. That's probably the biggest change. Nobody likes to move, pack and move, but we did, and we did it very slowly and over a long period of time, which probably made it a little more digestible. We still have access to the older lab, which also made it easier because we didn't feel like we had to move every piece of paper that we needed in one day. So we have a little bit of flexibility in our move, which was really good. So we started slowly, did it in a very systematic but slow way, and got rid of a lot of things we didn't need and only moved what we absolutely needed. So at the end, we had a very efficient move, I think.
Yeah, pretty cool facility. Well, finally today, with the new year comes a new California state law that requires farmers to give chickens more space.
Yeah, but as Bob Hansen of KNSD Television reports, the new law may be to blame for higher egg prices.
Frank Hilliker walks through a sea of chickens gathered inside his cage-free barn. This is a far cry from the way his family has been raising chickens in Lakeside for more than 70 years.
It's like chicken Disneyland. You know, they're jumping up and down on the aviary structure. We got toys in there for them to play with. They're all over the place.
Now, this cage-free change isn't necessarily Frank's idea, but it's happening across the state because of Proposition 2.
You have to make changes. You do not have to be cage-free. You have to give the chickens more room.
To transition from cages to this free-range setup cost him more than $220,000 to build, and only houses about half the number of chickens.
Less chickens in the chicken house means less eggs coming out of that chicken house. As you can see, it's just going to be less eggs on the market.
And that means more expensive eggs. Wholesale prices are already up 80 cents a dozen to some of the highest egg prices ever. Not only does the new law impact California farmers, but any farmer who wants to sell eggs here. So will the new law mean fewer eggs coming in from out of state?
In the beginning, yes, but I think ultimately, when the folks in the Midwest and the South see how much people are paying for eggs here, they're going to convert.
All right, that's going to do it for this week's edition of the Georgia Farm Monitor.
Well, here's a reminder for all the latest ag info regarding food, great recipes, and what's happening down on the farm. Be sure to check out our Twitter, Facebook, and Pinterest pages. You'll stay informed and see what's up in the world of farming and the Farm Monitor Show.
Take care, everybody. We will see you next week right here on the Georgia Farm Monitor.
Have a great week.